Alright, dark romance readers, we're back with another one. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Fantasia, and if you're trying to be my little special friend, you can call me Fantasia. Today we're going to be reviewing book 1 of RUNYX Dark Verse series, The Predator. The Predator opens up with a flashback back in 1985. I'm assuming there's two mobsters in it, and they just open up a trunk and it's two girls inside. I don't know if they're dead, I don't know if they're sleeping, I don't know, but that's how it starts off. Really weird. Anyway, fast forward, we meet our FMC, Morana Vitiello. Disclaimer, I'm gonna pronounce these names all types of wrong. So if you are a hardcore fan, I'm gonna apologize in advance, because the way the writer picked these names, I was just like, Vitiello, Batalio, Vitulio. You know what? We're just gonna call her Morana. Morana is attending a party in disguise in an area called Shadowport. Now, Shadowport is a rival game to her family. We'll get to her family later. Morana is at this party with only one goal in mind: to retrieve her codes back. You see, she used to date this guy named Jackson, and Jackson bet her, saying like, hey, I bet you cannot create codes that would control all the weapons in the world. She did, and for some reason she gave them to him and sold them to this rival gang. Now that's why she's at this party. As she's scoping out the party, she sees Dante, the son of the Shadowport, and then here comes Tristan, the Predator Kane. Tristan isn't really blood related to the Shadowport family, which is ran by the Maroni family. He was brought in like by some blood oath, but no one really knows how he actually got into that position. But there's a little rumor going around that Tristan's gonna take the first son, Dante Maroni's position. But we find a little bit more about that later. Morana doesn't really care how Tristan got in this position. All she knows is that her ex, Jackson, gave Tristan these codes. So she's just scoping him out, making sure that she's hidden in the right areas and all this extra stuff. Just being, you know, incognito and crap. Tristan finally separates himself from Dante and goes upstairs, I'm guessing to his study, and Morana follows him. And I was actually proud of her because this man is called the Predator, and you sneaking up on him? Snaps, girl! I like you already. Morana follows Tristan to his study. She locks the door, and as his back is turned, she points a knife in his back and basically says, give me my codes back. And Tristan's like, who is this chick? He don't know who she is. He don't know how she got in. He's just like, okay. And they just play like a little game of cat and mouse basically for the next 5 minutes. Like, just, you know, like cute banter. Tristan finally gives in and says, hey, if you want your codes, they're in the pocket of my jacket on top of the chair. Why would you fall for that? Why would you believe that this man kept codes that could control weapons in his pocket? That made... You don't think he would have an unlocking key? Anyway, she walks over there and surprise, surprise, Tristan turns around and sticks the knife back to her. And I'm just like... I mean, I saw that coming. Tristan pushes her up against the wall with the knife at her throat and asks her, who are you? And she's just like, you know who I am. You stole my codes. You want my codes back. And I'm just like, girl, this girl's a whiner. Oh my goodness. Like, you are the daughter of a mobster. I would think like you would know how to protect yourself in these situations, but that's just me. After Tristan gets a real hard look at her, he's like, Morana? And she's like, that's me. And he's like, well, I don't have your codes. I don't know what you're talking about. And Morana doesn't really believe him because they're in the mob. They all lie. So it's kind of understandable why she doesn't believe him. But he convinces her eventually. And then there's a big knock at the door and he's like, hey, someone snuck in. And I thought Tristan was going to turn her in, but surprisingly, he gave her the details to actually sneak out the house. And boom, that's chapter 1. She returns home to Tenebrae empty-handed and very upset that she has to tell her father that she created codes that could literally destroy his family. I'm actually surprised that Morana is terrified to tell her father some bad news. You would think the daughter of a mobster would just be like, you know what, hey dad, this happened. We gotta figure out some ways to fix it. That's how I think her mindset should be. Right? She's just like, if my dad finds out, he's gonna kill me. I'm sorry, what? Kill you? I'm starting to think that your dad don't really like you. As she returns home, she finds out that her dad's not there. That's some great news for her. So she decides just to go to her room and just try to track down her codes. As she's tracking them down, she receives a very weird call from Jackson, the ex. Anyway, he says like, hey, I have your codes. If you want them, meet me at this place tomorrow. Obviously, Mirana's not dumb. She knows this is a trap. But between this trap and her dying anyway from her dad, she's gonna take the trap. So the next day she drives up to this very, very weird warehouse. Like it has crows circling above it. So obviously some dead bodies in there. And he calls her and he's like, did you come alone? And she's like, yeah, you got my codes? He's like, yeah, they're in the building. Just come inside the building. She walks towards the building. Jackson opens the door and he's like, come on inside. Mirana's not dumb. You come over here. And he's like, no, you come over here. They come over here. You come over here. That's just like a little banter. Next thing you know, Jackson gets shot. And who shot Jackson? Mirana looks to the side and there's Tristan with a gun in his hand. Dun, dun, dun. Mirana's like, dude, what the heck are you doing here? If you had nothing to do with my codes, why are you here? And it's so funny because as they're having this conversation, Jackson's body is just dead. Mirana does not care about Jackson whatsoever, which I found extremely funny as they're having this banter back and forth. And as they're arguing, Dante pulls up. He's like, I never met a woman who wasn't scared of Tristan. I'm like, well, okay. I felt like that was a really weird way to introduce Dante, but that's just me. Now that all three of them are together, you know, bantering like best buddies, they quickly figure out that someone is trying to frame Tristan. And they're using Mirana's codes to get to it. And it makes sense because they're both rival gangs. So that means that whoever's framing Tristan is trying to start a war between these two gangs. And they don't really want that. Like, you stay on your side and I'm stay on my side. And they really agree to that. It's been like that for years. So they're trying to figure out who is trying to break this, I guess, agreement between these two gangs. Mirana does not give a crap about these two gangs. Remember, her dad don't even like her. So this rivalry has absolutely nothing to do with her. She just wants her codes back so her dad won't kill her. And Tristan just stares at her while she's like having this little meltdown. And I'm just like, okay, someone has a staring problem. Mirana notices and she's like, boy, if you don't back up off me, I'll kill you in your sleep. And mind you, she can't fight, but she's threatening to kill him, whatever. And Tristan quickly changes his like demeanor, like, who you think you talking to? Like, dude, I'm the predator. And Mirana's just like, does this man hate me? Wait, pause. Didn't all three of us just agree that we're trying to figure out who's trying to frame you and you hate me? Oh, this is gonna be a huge issue for Mirana. After all this unnecessary arguing is done, the three characters go their separate ways. Dante and Tristan are trying to use their connections to figure out who is trying to frame Tristan, and Mirana goes back home, gets on a little computer to try to track these codes down. As Mirana separates herself from Tristan and Dante from the warehouse, she's starting to think that this situation is getting bigger than what it is. Because at first it was just about retrieving these codes back, but now she's involving a rival gang, so she believes it's time to tell her dad the big news. And she's prepared to die after she tells him this news. As she's driving home to tell her dad the big bad news, we get to learn a little bit about Mirana's background. Mirana, last name, I might pronounce it wrong, Vitiello, is the daughter of Gabriel Vitiello, who is the mob boss over Tenebrae. He is described as just a man who just doesn't take any crap. That's the best way. They don't really go into detail about how these characters look, so he just looks very mean with gray hair. That's all I really pictured him as. As Mirana parks her car in front of her house, she walks up the stairs, prepared to deliver this bad news to her dad that might make her die. And as she opens the door and says like, hey dad, I gotta tell you something, he interrupts her. He says, I don't care what you really gotta tell me. Get dressed, we're going out to dinner tonight. Now you would think going out to dinner would mean a nice evening with your dad, over drinks, maybe some of his friends, and laughter, money, drinks, food. Absolutely not. What Gabriel really does is uses his daughter's bodies for business deals, which is really sad to say. Like, it really, I almost teared up when I read that part. I was like, yo, this is kind of messed up. So as they're at this restaurant, his dad is talking to a fellow business partner about whatever deal. We don't really know what he's talking about. His business partner's son or colleague, whatever he is basically feeling up Mirana's leg under the table. And she's like, dude, if you touch me one more time, we're gonna have a very, very big issue. As they're having this business deal, Mirana looks over and she sees Dante and Tristan. But Tristan hasn't really seen Mirana in the room, so she's just like, okay, this is gonna be awkward. So she gets up, walks like to a dark area where she can see everyone, but they can't see her. and she spots Tristan. And I guess Tristan just felt her eyes on him, and he looks up and they have a big staring match. And they stare at each other. Like this. For 5 awkward minutes. And then after that, she walks back to her table and gets felt up again. And that's the end of that scene. That same night, Miranda's at home trying to track these codes. She is working day and night. And for some reason, the author mentions that she's in like some bunny shorts. Don't know why that's an important topic. But that was a good hint that we know Tristan's about to come up. Because, you know, booty shorts, man. Woo! As she's on her computer trying to track down these codes, she receives a phone call from an unknown number. I wonder who that is. She answers it. It's Tristan. Tristan says a whole bunch of nothing on the phone, basically saying like, I don't like your attitude. I don't like who you are, blah, blah, blah. And as you know, Miranda's on the phone. She is trying to track down this guy's location. Remember, she is smart. She can create codes. She finds out Tristan's location is right outside her window. She goes to her window and she was like, excuse me? Like, I am the daughter of a mob gang. I'm daughter of Tenebrae. Don't you ever disrespect me. Tristan don't care. So as like, you know, the guards outside are just, you know, doing patrolling or whatever, Tristan somehow sneaks up and climbs the wall like Spider-Man using his biceps. Oh, the author goes in such detail about this guy's biceps. Boy, as he makes it on top of her balcony to enter her room, he stares at her again. And this time I'm assuming with anger. Because for the life of me, Miranda's like, I can't figure out why this guy hates me. But she still stares at him back. And they stare and stare. And that's pretty much how it is, their relationship throughout the entire book. They just have really, really bad staring contests. Anyway, Tristan finally says, Dante and I can't track this guy by ourselves. You're smart. We have the connections. Let's work together. Miranda's like, you don't like me. I can tell by the way you stare at me. Like, he stares at her like he wants to kill her. So she's just like, I agree, but I'm only gonna work with Dante, not you. Ooh, and that hurts Tristan something bad. He doesn't say anything, but his body like locks up and then relaxes. He says, fine. And then leaves exactly how he came in. The next day, Miranda receives a phone call. Not from Tristan, from Dante. Dante calls Miranda and says, hey, let's meet up tonight at the club. We're at the club. For a person who only wants to work with Dante, she put a lot of work in her outfit. She was excited to go to the club. She doesn't really have a lot of friends. She's very lonely living in Tenebrae with her dad, Gabriel. So she's excited to just go to a club. Like, she's never been to one. She's never danced. She just wants to feel the vibe. She goes there and there's... That is my horrible reenactment of how a club is. Anyway, she goes to the club. Everyone's dancing, everyone's vibing, everyone's having a good time. She's like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like, yes, this is my life. Boom, boom, boom. She looks upstairs, she sees Dante. Dante gives her a look, it's like, come up here. And she's like, okay. So she goes upstairs, goes upstairs, open the door, and bum, 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 Tristan's there. Now, Miranda told you she only wants to work with Dante. Tristan, why are you here? And who is this girl you sit next to? We don't really get into detail about the girl, but she's there. Whatever. But she's here for Dante. She tries not to give Tristan too much attention. So as she walks away with Dante, there's 2 chairs. One facing Tristan, one facing away. And she chooses to faces away because she's like, I'm not giving you any of my attention. You don't deserve it. After they compare notes, Dante pulls out a flash drive and says, hey Miranda, this is all the information that we found regarding the location of the codes. You're a smart girl. Please figure it out. The conversation didn't really go past that, and they go their separate ways. You know, Miranda gets up, she's like, screw you, Tristan, bye Dante, and goes downstairs and goes straight to the bar. I don't know why she would leave, because even though you are in your hometown, you're still in enemy territory. You would think you would be smart enough to just go home, but she's like, I've never been to the club, I want to party. And so she goes to the bar. She asks for an orange juice at a club. The bartender walks away, comes back with her orange juice, and as she reaches for a drink, boom, Tristan pops up beside her, asks for some, I forgot his drink, like some, I don't know, like a Hennessy on the rocks. I don't remember. But she's just like, dude, like, I literally just told you I don't want to be around you, and you just inputting yourself into my space. But whatever. She ignores him, drinks her orange juice, and then she just looks at Tristan. She's like, you know what? I can't stand you either. And all this ugly banter. Then she like falls. Because the orange juice that she drank was drugged. As I said before, Marana, you're not making like smart decisions. Like, yes, you are a highly intelligent woman, but when it comes to street smarts, you just dumb. Tristan realizes that she's drugged. He picks her up, takes her upstairs, and just throws him to the girl that he was with earlier. And she's like, what's wrong with her? And he's like, I don't care. Take care of her. Deuces. And leave. Say a few, maybe an hour later, she wakes up in her car in the passenger seat, and that same girl that Tristan just threw her at is driving the car. And she's like, yo, what's going on? Who are you? Blah, blah, blah. The girl's like, calm down. Calm down. You don't have to be afraid. That's her voice. She has a very soft voice, so this is my reenactment her. You don't have to be afraid. I'm going to take you home. She has a very, very dainty voice. And we realize that this woman that is driving her home, her name is Amara. Even though Marana's first instinct is to be scared of this chick, she just trusts her. She's like, she doesn't really have any girlfriends, so she's like, thank you for, you know, not taking advantage of my body or whatever, you know, mobsters do, and just driving me home. Throughout this drive, they don't really get to know each other at a deeper level, but, you know, Marana finds out that Amara grew up with Dante and Tristan, and she realizes that, like, hey, like, these are my friends. I'm not going to tell you anything about them, but I am going to have your back and take you home. Period. Don't ask me nothing else. I respect that. Like, it's really hard to find friends that would have your back like Amara did. And I feel like Marana really tried to, like, get some information on, like, you know, like, where they're from, what's their background, what's their story. And Amara was like, I ain't giving you nothing. I'm just taking you home. Matter of fact, there's a car behind us and Tristan is following us to make sure you don't attack me while I'm taking you home. I love this friendship dynamic. As Marana starts to sober up, she's like, hey Amara, I really appreciate you for taking me home, but I got it from here. They pull over, they get out the car. Amara tells Marana, bye, hope you get home safe. And then she goes to the car that Tristan's in. Marana then goes to the driver's side and pulls out the street and drives away as quickly as she can. The next day, after downloading all the information from the flash drive to her computer, she wants to return it back to Dante. She leaves her room, walks down the stairs outside towards her car. She receives a text message. She reads it. It's basically a message from her father saying, hey, as you go out, take security with you. She texts back, nope. As she pulls up to the driveway, she notices 2 cars that are following her. And she absolutely knows that these guys work for her dad, so she does her very best to maneuver and get away from them. It doesn't work. Well, it does work. She got rid of 1 car, but this second car just kept on her tail. She called Dante for help. Dante didn't answer. So who was her only resort? Tristan King. She calls up Tristan and says, hey, you're the last person I want to talk to you right now, but I'm on my way to return this flash drive to you to your address. And if you don't want my dad to know where you live, you will come out and save me. And that's exactly what Tristan did. He got off his butt, got on his motorcycle, and saved the day yet again. As Tristan gets rid of Marana's dad's security, he pulls up to the side of her and says, follow me. And Marana follows Tristan all the way to his apartment garage. Tristan gets off his motorcycle, walks over to her car and says, hey, we're gonna hide up on the top floor of my penthouse. Ooh. And that was one awkward elevator ride up. Like, she's in the elevator, looking all stiff, looking at his reflection in the mirror, and he's just in the back corner, pretending not to notice her. We all know about these elevator scenes, but sadly, we didn't get one. And I know, I'm aware that not a lot of spiciness is happening in this book, and I kind of like it that way, because we actually get to know these characters on a deeper level, but at the same time, we don't really know much about them. It's, I don't know, I feel like it's chef's kiss writing. I just appreciate it. As the elevator doors open, she sees his house, and of course, you know, rich mobster, everything so nice, but what really catches her eye is that he has these large windows that have a beautiful view. But you know, being hard-headed as she is, she doesn't want Tristan to know that she likes his view. I'm like, girl, homegirl, it's just a view. You can like it. You could appreciate it. Like, let it go. But she's being petty, looks away, and just walks into his house like it doesn't mean anything. Like, I'm rich. I'm born with money anyway. This does not impress me whatsoever. After she gives Tristan the flash drive, they do talk a little bit more, but it's the most awkward conversation ever. And then she feels that vibe, so she's like, hey, I'm about to leave. So she walks to the elevator to head back down to the garage. As she rides the elevator down with Tristan, she walks outside and notices that someone slashed the tires of her car. And her heart is broken over this car. Her heart was more broken over this car than when Jackson got shot a few chapters ago. After she's just sitting over here heartbroken, Tristan, he's in the predator mode. He knows someone is in the garage. Tristan grabs Marana and they hide behind a car. As they're waiting, they hear the sounds of 2 or 3 guys in the garage just basically whispering, looking for Marana. When the other guys get closer, Tristan basically pops out and just starts beating the crap out of all these guys. Marana's helpful too. She shoots some guys, which is a little bit helpful. But my issue with Marana is that, how do you not know how to fight? This is my biggest pet peeve about this book. How are you the daughter of a mobster and you don't know how to fight? They go into detail like, oh, she knows how to use guns. I've been using guns since I was 5 years old, blah, 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 but you don't know how to fight. Anyway, Marana shoots a guy helping Tristan out. Tristan basically knocks him out. No, you know what? I lied. He kills him. With her car now having slashed tires, she can't return home, so they go right back up to Tristan's penthouse and basically sit in awkward silence until Dante shows up. Dante shows up very apologetically. He's like, Marana, I am so sorry. I should have been here earlier. I just, he is the first son, so he has other responsibilities as well. But he was very apologetic about it, which I appreciate. Dante, you were starting to become my favorite character. Somewhere in this conversation, Dante's like, hey Marana, now people are after you, not just Tristan. You can't return home tonight, but you can stay in my penthouse that's 3 doors down, and I won't be home tonight. Tristan's like, absolutely not. Dante's like, no, she can come to my room, that way you can have your space and she can have her own. And Tristan's like, nope, she's staying here. And Marana's just like, okay. Dante looks between these 2 people, and he's just like, okay. Like, Tristan's a predator. I'm not trying to fight him. And Marana just agreed to it anyway, so there's no reason for him to, really step in. So he leaves and continues whatever business he was doing. We will never know. Fast forward to the night. Tristan is upstairs sleeping in his room. Marana is in an environment where she's not really comfortable. Yes, she's protected, but this is the first night she's in a different man's house. She can't sleep. So where does she go? To her favorite spot, those large windows, and sits in front and looks at the view. As Marana is looking out the window, she senses Tristan's presence. She doesn't look over at him because she doesn't want to give him the time of day, so she just continues to stare outside. Tristan, picking up on this, he walks over there silently and just sits down with her and looks at the rain outside the window too. And this is the only moment we get to see these 2 characters actually talk to each other without an argument or a staring contest happening. And I feel like this moment was really sweet because in this scene, Tristan just randomly opens up about his family. He's just like, my sister loves the rain. And Marana's like, you have a sister? What's her name? And Tristan's like, Luna. And that's it. And after this scene, nothing happened. They went their separate ways. Tristan went back upstairs to his bed, and Marana went to her downstairs room, and they went to sleep. No spiciness. 33% into the book. The next day, Marana's car is fixed thanks to Tristan because he uses connections to find tires. I don't know if he has a 24-hour tire service, but the wheels are fixed. So she gets into her car and returns home. As Marana returns home, she walks up the front steps, opens the door, and boom, her dad says, get dressed, we have dinner tonight. And we all know what that means. So here we are at another business dinner where Marana is getting felt up by some random man. As her dad is talking to his business partner, completely ignoring this random man filling her up, Marana grabs this man's hand and twists it back, and the guy's like, ah! She looks him dead in the face and says, if you ever touch me again, this pain that you're feeling is gonna be 10 times worse. The dad looks over, basically ignores it, goes back to whatever he was talking about. She lets the man's hand go and goes back to eating her food, and then suddenly she feels a presence. She doesn't see him, but she knows that it's Tristan, which is fine, but at this point she cannot let her father know that she has, I guess you would call it, I don't want to say friendship, a partnership. I'll say that. A partnership with a rival gang. Let's just call it that. This intense presence is getting so much for her. She takes out her phone and starts to text Tristan and be like, hey, stop staring at me. He texts back, no. You know MMCs, they don't care. To that, she texts back, you're gonna make everyone think that we know each other. Tristan completely changes the subject and be like, so this is what the Vitialio family does? He basically whores his daughter out during business meetings. And that triggered Marana to a point of no return. Because it's one thing when you're aware that it's happening to you, but she doesn't want other people knowing how she's treated. So she just gets pissed off and gets up and walks towards the bathroom. As she's walking towards the bathroom, she gives Tristan this ugly look and he's like, what the heck? What did I do to you? She walks to the bathroom to cool off, and in 3, 2, 1, the door opens. And guess who it is? Tristan Kane. He walks in and he was like, what's going on? Why did you give me that dirty look? And Marana straight up told him, I'm sick of men trying to control what I do, what I say, how I dress, how I look, how I rap, how I sing, how I talk, how I boom, 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 boom. Sidetrack, sorry. And to that, Tristan basically challenges her. He gets in her personal space and be like, well, if you're sick of being controlled by men, move me. At this point, Marana just wants to get back at her dad. And the best way to get back at your dad for basically, you know, using your body at business meetings is to hook up with a rival gang. And what do you think they do? They hook up in the bathroom. And my first initial reaction to this was, ew, the bathroom? On the sink? Girl. But this isn't about sanitation, this is just about getting back at her dad. As they are having connections, she hears her dad's security banging on the door, telling Marana to return back to the table because she's been in the bathroom too long. And do you think Marana's gonna stop? No. Marana don't care. Tristan don't care. They both gonna finish what they started in this bathroom. As they are finished, Marana jumps off the sink and fixes her outfit because she, you know, she just got done getting it in. Tristan looks her in the eye and says, now, if that man touches you again, show him that same wildcat that you just showed me. And I was like, eh. Unlike me, as a girl who was like kicking her legs in the air, Mariah did not care about those sweet words whatsoever. She looked Tristan up and down and said bye and walked back to her table. She comes back to the table so relaxed. Her dad gets her a once over and continues his conversation with his business partner. Unfortunately, the man beside her didn't take the warning. He put his hand right back on her thigh. Not only did she grab this man's hand and twist it back, she twisted back so hard to the point that it was broken. This man was howling. She looked at her dad looked at her, and he's like, we're leaving. As they are walking out the restaurant, surprisingly, Dante or Tristan are outside too. Coincidence? I think not. Marana does not want her father to know that not only do they have some sort of partnership, but she just got done having sex with Tristan in the bathroom. So she just wants to go, dip, zoom. As she gets into the car, she notices her dad's not getting in. She looks at her dad and Tristan are having some staring contest in the street. We do not have time for this. Tristan, mark your territory some other time. Forgetting starting a war with the codes, this little interaction can start a war by itself. Marana basically gets out the car and tells her dad, like, hey, we don't need any trouble. We don't need no drama. Please get in the car. Gabriel looks at her like, girl, you don't tell me what to do. And then he basically walks over to the car and they go home. Now that we are halfway into the book, it's time to figure out, did the predator make the bookcase? And then, oh my gosh, I love this book so much. I bought the second one. It's hard to explain why I love this book so much because it's such a slow burn, but it works out so well to the point where you don't even care about the spicy scenes anymore. You just want to get to know these main characters and what are the reasons behind of why they act, and that's why I love Tristan Kane. The writing is just chef's kiss, like, RUNYX, you put your foot in this book. Back to the book. Even though this was supposed to be a one-time hookup thing, Marana starts to grow feelings for him. Go figure. So she wants to know, like, why do you hate me, but you flirt with me, but you stare at me, but you protect me, but you sort of like me or you love me? I don't know. But unfortunately, Tristan won't open up about it. Dante won't open up about it. Amada won't open up about it. So she's basically stuck. That is until one day she's doing information about tracking her codes and someone sends her a little link about something that happened a long time ago. Remember in the beginning where I said it was a flashback about two girls that were stuck in a trunk? Turns out that was a part of a whole project to kidnap girls, and Marana was one of those girls. And not only Marana, but Luna, which is Tristan's sister. Dun dun dun. So as Marana is doing more digging into this whole case of kidnapped children, she finds out that amongst 1,000 of girls that were kidnapped, Marana was the only one returned home. This makes Marana so upset because she's starting to have feelings for this guy. And she is aware that he has feelings for her, but whatever's stopping him from like actually acting on those feelings is right between this issue with the kidnapping, but no one's telling her information. So where does she go? She goes to her sacred place, which is a graveyard right outside of an airport, where she just likes to lay near the graves and just feel the airplane go over her. I mean, you know, and some people paint, but that's where she likes to go when life starts to get too overwhelming. Too many things are going on in her head right now. The possibility of a relationship. He hates her. The codes. Her dad wants to kill her. Like, so many things are going on. She just needs peace. As Marana is laying down, soaking in the sun, and almost getting hit by an airplane, she receives a phone call. She looks at her phone and realizes it's her dad. She answers the phone and her dad goes off. Like, I'm sick of you hanging out with the Maroney family. They're a rival gang. You should know better. Blah, 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 blah. She cuts him off and says, I know about the kidnappings. Her dad pauses on the phone and says, you know everything? And she calls his bluff and says, yes, I know everything. The dad gives no more information. He just basically says, you're dead to me and you should have died on that day. And Marana is just, what day? What day are you talking about? Before she can ask that question, the dad hangs up. After he hangs up, 2 cars pull up and she instantly knows that that is her dad's security and they have come to kill her. So I know Marana's just like, ain't this up? Marana gets up and walks straight to her car. As she gets to her car, she starts to hear beeping coming from her vehicle. Looking around, she looks under her car and realizes that there's a bomb under her car. Right before that car blows up, she runs just in time into the bushes before that car just blows up. Marana runs into the bushes and leads into the forest right near the area where her dad's security are at. She sees one of the security guys take his phone out of his pocket and say, it's done. Knowing that her dad is receiving that information on the other end of that phone breaks her heart. But she doesn't really have time to cry about it, so she takes out the gun that her dad gave her, points it at the car, and blows it up, killing both of her dad's security. Not knowing where to go, she doesn't want to call Tristan to save her. She doesn't want to call Dante to make her feel better. The person she calls to save her is Amara. After Marana calls Amara, she shows up in like maybe 30 minutes with some new clothes, basically saying like, are you okay? Do you want to talk? Blah, blah, blah. Marana's just like, no, she is done trying to figure everything out on her own. She asks Amara openly and says, hey, do you know anything about the kidnappings that happened in 1985? Amara looks at Marana and says, hey, if I tell you this information, there's no going back. And I'm thinking like, what is it? God dang! And at this moment, Amara tells Marana the story of Tristan Kane. Flashback! The story is told when Tristan was 8 or 10 years old. I can't remember, but it was one of those ages. And this was around the time his sister Luna got kidnapped. And the reason why it was so interesting that his sister Luna got kidnapped was because they were the children of a security guard that was supposed to protect the Maroney family. So Tristan's dad goes to ask for the help of Lorenzo, which is Dante's dad, and says, hey, my daughter got kidnapped. Can you please figure out a way for me to save her? Lorenzo tells Tristan's dad that I don't know exactly what happened to your daughter, but I know Gabriel Vitilayo, which is Marana's dad, has something to do with it. So they call a meeting. On this side is Gabriel, on that side is Lorenzo, and right there next to Lorenzo is Tristan's dad. And who's watching all of this come together? Tristan. Little baby Tristan is watching in the shadows. Gabriel shows up to the meeting with his wife, who's holding little baby Marana. I think at this point she's maybe like, I don't know, 3? That's just a hard guess. Lorenzo's just like, I'm so glad that baby Marana made it back home safely. And Gabriel's just like, yes, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. Lorenzo asks Gabriel, I assume you know why we called this meeting. Gabriel responds saying, well, I think it's because of the kidnappings and why my daughter returned. And Tristan that interrupts and says, why was your daughter the only one that returned? Gabriel's like, I don't know. Maybe because, you know, maybe I'm a mob leader and they respect me. Lorenzo then asks Gabriel to tell his wife to leave the room. Gabriel looks over to his wife and says, hey, can you please take baby Miranda outside the room? Lorenzo looks at him and says, leave baby Miranda on this table right now. She stood up with her baby, placed the baby on the table, and turned to walk out that room. Tristan's dad asked once again, why was your daughter the only one returned from the kidnappings? Gabriel repeats, I do not know. And in, you know, mobster fashion, no one's really gonna believe what you say. Like, you have to be threatened in order to tell the truth. That's just how it works in their world. Tristan's dad takes a few steps forward, a little bit too close to baby Miranda, and says, you got one more opportunity to lie to me. Where is my daughter, Luna? Gabriel looks at Tristan's dad, and then at Lorenzo, and back at Tristan's dad, and says, you don't even know what's really going on, do you? At that moment, Lorenzo like cuts in. He says, look, if you keep talking, the same thing that happened to the Reaper is going to happen to you. And I was just like, who's the Reaper? Tristan's dad completely ignores the name drop, pulls out his gun and aims it towards baby Miranda. Gabriel didn't even flinch. He's just like, I still don't know where your daughter's at. Shoot her. I don't care. In the background, Tristan is getting nervous because in his dad's a good guy, a hero. Yes, he works for the mob, but at the same time, he would never think his dad would kill a toddler. That's not who he is. That's my dad, man. But as Tristan is watching this scene between these three characters and sees how serious his dad is holding this gun, he's starting to think that his dad might kill this baby. Tristan's dad takes the safety off the gun and points it closer to Miranda. And Miranda's looking at that gun like, oh, what is this? This is cute. Like it's a dang lollipop. He asks Gabriel, one more time, do you know where my daughter is? Gabriel's like, no, I don't. And as Tristan's dad slowly pulls that trigger, Tristan runs into the scene. All he sees is red. He takes out his gun and starts blasting. Pow, 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 pow. Not even knowing who to shoot, just shooting anywhere. And as the smoke clears, he looks over. Baby Miranda is still alive. Yes, she has blood on her face. He goes to her, wipes the blood off her face. He was such a precious little boy. Oh my gosh. Anyway, he looks over and he realizes that he shot his dad right in the middle of his head. Tristan's in shock. Lorenzo's over there laughing like, ha 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 ha. Just an evil Mojo Jojo type of laugh. And out of nowhere, Gabriel picks up Miranda and just leaves the scene. Lorenzo gets up from his seat, walks over to Tristan, puts his hand on his shoulder, and says, I got you, boy. And that is how Tristan joined the Maroney family who runs Shadowport. Amada goes more into detail about Tristan's past, but I'm not going to say it because I want you to read it. After Miranda had her conversation with Amada, Amada says, do with this information what you want, but I gotta go. And I'm just like, didn't Amada come to save Miranda? I'm so confused. Like, this could have been an email. As Miranda is alone with her thoughts, another car pulls up and it's her dad's security guard and she hides. The security guards come out, they look at the scene like, oh my gosh, like our guys are dead. Her car blew up, but we don't have a body to return back to Gabriel, so what we're gonna do? Then not even like 30 seconds later, Tristan pulls up. Tristan gets out that car and he says, where is she? The security guard look at each other just like, we don't know. That's not the right answer, dude. That's not the right answer. Tristan walks close to the guys, looks over, and like his body stills and sees that her car's been blown up. He looks back over at the guys and asks a little bit more sternly, where is she? And again, they say they don't know. He just shoots them. After Tristan shoots them, they beg and they plead. They said, hey dude, we really don't know where she's at. We just got here. Please let us go. We're a family. We have kids. I'm assuming at this moment, Tristan's heart grew 10 times big because he tells those guys, you know what? My beef isn't with you. You can leave. You gotta tell them twice. They left real quick. Tristan walks over to the car, stares at the car. You know, he got a staring problem. Stares at the car for like maybe a good 5 minutes. And let me remind you, Miranda is seeing all of this. She is seeing all this come together because at this moment, she's deciding she can trust Tristan. So she's not gonna take any step forward, talk to him until she sees some type of sign like, hey, I hate this woman, but I do care for her. After Tristan stares at Mirana's burnt up car for like 5 minutes, he walks over, takes a deep breath, and places his hand on the car. Oh, that was so cute. And that was the sign that Mirana needed. She walked up towards the car, and at this moment, I'm assuming that he senses her because they can sense each other's, like, you know, presence for some awkward reason. As she gets closer, she starts to talk, and she says, hey, I know why you hate me, and I'm gonna give you a choice. You can either get your revenge and shoot me and go on and enjoy your life, or let me go forever. It's your choice. She takes a gun that her father gave her and threw it to the side, showing him that whatever decision you make is entirely up to you. I'm not gonna fight back. It is what it is. She closes her eyes, and just when she hears the click of a gun, she feels lips on her. And they start to... I almost started to cry because this was such a perfect ending to the first book, because like he hates her, but he's aware that it's just not her fault, because this was his opportunity to get his revenge. This was his opportunity to kill her, something that he's been wanting to do since he was 8 years old. And he chose to kiss her and show her that he liked, well, I don't want to say love, I'm gonna say really like her. And I'm just crying. I'm like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect ending. I love it so much. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And right as it gets hot, she feels a gun at her temple. And I was like, oh! And I personally believe that Tristan was testing Mirana, because even though she felt the gun tip at her temple, she was still kissing Tristan, showing him that no matter if you choose to kill me, I still care about you at the end of this, which was really pretty. And I don't know if that makes me crazy. Tristan slowly pulls the gun away from Mirana's forehead, breaks the kiss to step back just to stare at her. Again, after he takes a long look at her, he turns around and walks to his car. And what does Mirana do? She follows him, because now she knows that whatever she's gonna go through, at least it's with Tristan. And that's the end of book 1. Like I said, The Predator by RUNYX is such a good book. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And the second book, even better. I highly recommend that you guys read this book because it is so good. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. I'm still reading the Darkverse series. I feel like I have 3 or 2 more books left. And then after that, I'll start on my, next dark romance series. If you have any books for me to read, please put them in the comments below. And don't worry, I don't just read dark romance. I love me some fantasy books too. So until next time, see ya.